In this video, I'll demonstrate how to assign classification to our project information model elements using Classification Manager. So within the instructions, task number 20 says add classification information to the third level to all elements on level 00 as per the BEP. And we can see their windows and doors have been highlighted. So within the BEP, let's scroll down to find our Kobe data requirements and classification information. We can see here we have for Windows the third level would just be 25, 30, 95, so we've got window systems, and for door, shutter and hatch systems 25, 30, 20. Now straight away I should point out that in the BEP this is part of the task, is that we're using the systems table from Uniclass 2015. This is again just part of the assessment process, just seeing that you're able to look for information and follow information within a BIM execution plan. So back into the model, and first thing we need to do then is within BIM interoperability tab, let's look at the Kobe extension and say setup project. In this case I've actually provided the project setup, so if you say import and go and get the import project Kobe settings, you'll see them within your resources file or data set that's been shared. If that's during the BIM competition, that will be available within your resources directory. And we can just say import to that. So let's import contacts and settings and project mapping. And we set up Kobe project parameters first, so that when we assign the classification, the appropriate default parameters used by the Kobe extension for Revit, then the parameters exist in the model, and we can assign the appropriate default parameters used by the Kobe extension at the same time. So let's open up Classification Manager. We'll say Setup, and we're going to use Uniclass 2015 database for this exercise. Click Finish. And so that just loads in the Uniclass 2015 database into the project information model. So we now want to look in the model for any element that we wish to assign classification. So in this case I'm going to select this window and all instances visible in the view, and we can see the windows that we have selected. So we can now go to BIM interoperability tools, Classification Manager and Assign. So assign classification, what we can see here, we have the EF elements and functions tables, the product tables, and Uniclass table SS, which is system. Now we would normally use the EF table for windows and doors, and I'll demonstrate that soon in a little infographic. But for the benefit of this task, we're being asked to follow the BIM execution plan, and it's instructed us to use the SS table or the systems table. So if we choose on the top tab, the System tab, and again we can look back to the BEP, and it says 25, 30, 95 for Windows systems. So let's find 25 and expand that, 25, 30 and expand that, 25, 30, 95. And if I can then just assign that. Before we assign it, let's scroll down the bottom. We should see three options. So we can say assign similar classifications, so that's on. Set Kobe parameters. Now that was the wee tip that I had mentioned earlier a few moments ago. If we tick set Kobe parameters, when we assign information, when we assign classification information, it will assign a classification to the appropriate default parameter used by Kobe extension for Revit at the same time. And blanks only. Now if we already have classification information assigned to any elements, then if we tick blanks only, then that information won't be overridden when we assign new information. In this case, if we don't tick it, then it's not blanks only, then it would overwrite any information that has already been assigned, any classification information that's already been assigned. And so we'll just click close to that. And so back into the project information model, and using a crossing window and filter, let's check none and select only doors. So we have all the doors in the model selected. And 25, 30, 20 would be the classification information. So assign from the classification manager, SS systems table. So we can say 25, 30, 20, click on that and say assign, and we'll see a little pop-up appears to say that it's assigned. Also, let's just go down and double check our options again, just to make sure that set copy parameters have been ticked, and again, because we hit assign already, we can just say close to that. So let's double check our classification information. Let's choose the door and go into edit type, and within edit type, and we can see the classification information has been added in to the correct categories. So you notice it's not instance information. If we click edit type, we can see the information is type information. And there's the system classification information within the project element. So looking at Uniclass 2015 website, the nbs.com, and if we scroll down there, it gives you some information on what Uniclass 2015 is and what it's used for. We've looked at that for adding classification information into our model. It describes what the tables are. We used them, we saw them already when we were looking at the systems tables for windows and doors. It describes the various tables that are available, so complexes. Complexes would be the buildings and all of the grounds, etc. Entities are the buildings. Activities, what type of activities happen in those buildings. Spaces and locations, again, what is happening within those spaces and locations. Elements, so this is the one I want to draw attention to. Elements are the main components of a building. Floors, walls, roofs, so also windows and doors. So normally when we assign classification information to windows and doors, it would come from the elements and functions or elements table, and then we've got systems, and then all the way down to products. Now the table at the bottom of the page is not really entirely clear. I've rewritten that slightly, so we can see here, what I don't like about that is the table seems misaligned. So if I come back into just one of the lessons that we have, that's the link to that page that's there. We have within the tables themselves, we have the numbers that we were looking at. So some of the numbers, when we look, 10 preparatory, 15 earthworks, 20 are structural, 25 wall and barrier. So if we looked at 25 and expanded that, we would find this only the first level to the third level, we'll find lots more information in there. So if we look complexes, groups of assets and the grounds, so New College Lanarkshire, campus, all of the grounds, the buildings, and Glasgow University campus, etc. EN would be entities, so the individual assets, a teaching building or a nursery or a house, etc. Activities, is it exercising, sleeping, eating, working, etc. Spaces and locations, where the activities happen, living room, hall, etc. Elements and functions, EF, main building components, walls, windows, doors, etc. Systems, so an element, part of an element made up of products. So yeah, we could be looking at brickwork, stud work. So it's not bricks particularly, it's brickwork and it's stud work, etc. So it's an element, part of an element that's made up of products. And then we can look at products, so the actual objects that you're buying, so the bricks, the mortar, the wall ties, plywood, etc.